Do you remember the soups Grandma used to make on crisp autumn evenings, the kind that filled the kitchen with warmth and the smell of home? These old-fashioned recipes, often tucked away in handwritten notebooks or dog-eared cookbooks, were simple yet hearty, crafted from whatever ingredients were on hand. Each bowl was more than just nourishment, it was a comfort, a ritual, and a way to bring family together around the table. Today, we're revisiting 30 of these timeless autumn soups, celebrating the flavors, creativity, and care that made them unforgettable. Cornmeal mush with molasses. There's a quiet, rustic charm in a bowl of cornmeal mush, its golden, creamy texture carrying the honest flavors of a bygone era. During the Great Depression, cornmeal mush with a drizzle of molasses was more than just breakfast. It was a reliable, warming meal that could stretch to feed an entire family when resources were tight. Cornmeal was inexpensive, shelf-stable, and filling, while molasses, often a pantry staple, added a touch of sweetness and a hint of luxury to an otherwise humble dish. Together, they created a breakfast that was practical, nourishing, and surprisingly comforting, embodying the resourcefulness and ingenuity of households making do with what they had. The origins of cornmeal mush lie in frugality and necessity. Families needed dishes that could provide energy for long days of work or school without emptying the larder. Cornmeal, whether ground at home or purchased in bulk, offered a way to create a substantial meal with minimal fuss. Water or milk transformed the coarse grain into a thick, creamy porridge, while a pinch of salt balanced the flavor. Molasses, rich in minerals and deeply flavorful, was the finishing touch, a sweet, slightly bitter counterpoint that elevated the simplicity of the mush. Some households even experimented with small additions: a pat of butter, a sprinkling of cinnamon, or a splash of cream, to stretch the flavor or add a touch of indulgence. Preparing cornmeal mush today is straightforward yet evocative of history. Slowly whisk cornmeal into simmering liquid, stirring to prevent lumps, until it thickens into a smooth, golden mass. Let it cool slightly, then slice into squares or serve warm straight from the pot. Pour molasses over the top, letting it seep into every crevice, or swirl it in for a more integrated sweetness. Even in its simplest form, the dish carries the comforting aroma and texture of kitchens past, where the act of cooking was as much about care and sustenance as flavor. The emotional resonance of cornmeal mush with molasses lies in its ability to evoke home, warmth, and resilience. It recalls mornings when families gathered around the table, steam rising from bowls, hands reaching for the familiar sweetness that required little but delivered much. Each bite is a connection to the ingenuity and care of generations who turned simple ingredients into nourishment, proving that even the humblest of dishes can leave a lasting imprint on memory and palate. It's a quiet reminder that comfort and sustenance often come from simplicity, patience, and a touch of sweetness in even the most modest meals. Potato and onion bake. There's a quiet magic in the combination of potatoes and onions, especially when baked slowly until tender and golden. During the Great Depression, this simple dish was more than just comfort food. It was a testament to ingenuity, stretching a few humble ingredients into a meal that could feed an entire family. Potatoes were inexpensive, widely available, and filling, while onions added flavor without costing a fortune. Together, they created a harmony of textures and aromas that could make even the simplest kitchen feel like home. The origins of potato and onion bake lie in necessity and practicality. Families needed meals that were nourishing, affordable, and easy to prepare, and this dish fit the bill perfectly. Some households layered thinly sliced potatoes with a sprinkling of onions and a dash of salt, while others added leftover bacon drippings, a splash of milk, or a touch of butter if they were lucky. Its beauty lay in flexibility. The recipe could adapt to whatever ingredients were on hand, yet the result was always satisfying. It wasn't fancy, but it carried the weight of care and the pride of creating something filling from minimal resources. Preparing it today is both simple and evocative of the past. Thin slices of potato are layered with slivers of onion, a pinch of salt, and perhaps a drizzle of oil or butter. The dish goes into a moderate oven where it softens and the edges crisp, just enough to offer a delicate crunch. The aroma of caramelizing onions mingles with the earthy scent of potatoes, filling the kitchen with warmth. By the time it emerges, the layers have melded into a tender, flavorful casserole that tastes like patience, care, and home. The emotional resonance of potato and onion bake is undeniable. It conjures images of families gathering around a table after long days, the comforting aroma greeting them before they even sit down. Compared to today's convenience foods or Instagram-ready plates, this dish reminds us that richness doesn't always come from extravagance. It comes from warmth, simplicity, and a touch of love. Eating it now, you're tasted more than potatoes and onions. You're tasting ingenuity, resilience, and the enduring spirit of Depression-era kitchens. Creamed cabbage soup. There's something unexpectedly comforting about a bowl of creamed cabbage soup. Its pale green broth swirling with creamy richness and the gentle sweetness of simmered vegetables. During the Great Depression, this humble soup was more than a meal. It was a lifeline. Cabbage, one of the cheapest and most versatile vegetables of the era, grew abundantly in home gardens, stored well through the winter, and could stretch a meal further than almost anything else. A splash of milk or cream, when available, transformed the simple broth into something warm and nourishing, turning minimal ingredients into a hearty, satisfying dish for the whole family. The origins of creamed cabbage soup lie in resourcefulness and necessity. Families relied on what they had, using onions sautéed in a little fat, a sprinkle of flour, or even a dash of salt pork to elevate the flavors. Each household had its own variation, reflecting both the ingredients at hand and the cook's ingenuity. Some added herbs, a touch of butter, or a handful of leftover vegetables, creating a version uniquely theirs. It was never about extravagance. It was about making simple, affordable ingredients comforting and memorable. Preparing it today is just as satisfying. Start by gently sautéing onions until fragrant. Then add chopped cabbage and broth, letting the mixture simmer until tender and infused with flavor. A splash of milk or cream brings silkiness to the broth, while seasoning with salt, pepper, and fresh herbs highlights the natural sweetness of the cabbage. The slow simmer allows flavors to meld, releasing a gentle, homey aroma that fills the kitchen. The emotional resonance of creamed cabbage soup runs deep. Steam curling from a bowl, warmth spreading with every spoonful. It's a reminder that even in lean times, careful attention to simple ingredients could nourish both body and spirit. Sitting down with a bowl today, you're tasting more than cabbage. You're tasting history, resilience, and the enduring magic of home-cooked meals. Each bite carries the quiet pride of generations who turned humble produce into comfort, proving that simplicity, patience, and care can create something timeless and deeply satisfying. Apple and oat pudding. There's something irresistibly autumnal about the aroma of apples and oats baking together, a scent that instantly conjures memories of cozy kitchens and crisp fall mornings. During the Great Depression, apple and oat pudding was more than just a dessert. It was a practical, comforting staple born from necessity. Apples were often sourced from backyard trees or local markets, while oats were inexpensive, shelf-stable, and filling. Together, they created a sweet, wholesome dish that stretched limited resources while still satisfying a craving for warmth and comfort. The origins of this pudding lie in frugality and ingenuity. Families needed desserts that felt special but didn't require expensive ingredients. A handful of oats, a few chopped apples, a touch of sugar or molasses, and a splash of milk or water were enough to make a humble dish feel nourishing and indulgent at the same time. Some households added a pinch of cinnamon or nutmeg, a small luxury that elevated the flavors without breaking the budget. Every variation reflected what was on hand and the care of the cook, making this pudding both versatile and comforting. Preparing apple and oat pudding today is simple and rewarding. The apples are peeled, cored, and chopped, then mixed with oats, sweetener, and any desired spices. The mixture is poured into a baking dish and slowly baked until the apples soften and the oats turn golden, forming a tender, slightly caramelized pudding. A drizzle of cream or a spoonful of yogurt can modernize it, but even plain, it carries a rustic, wholesome flavor that feels timeless. The emotional resonance of apple and oat pudding is undeniable. It evokes family tables filled with warmth, the scent of autumn mingling with the cozy comfort of home. In a world of instant desserts and prepackaged treats, this dish reminds us that simplicity, resourcefulness, and care can create lasting pleasure. Each bite is a connection to history, tradition, and the quiet ingenuity of Depression-era kitchens, offering both nourishment and a sweet taste of memory. Pumpkin fritters. There's a playful charm in pumpkin fritters, their golden, crisp edges giving way to a tender, spiced interior that carries the essence of autumn. During the Great Depression, these fritters were more than just a sweet treat. They were a clever way to make the most of a humble pumpkin, an inexpensive and plentiful ingredient. Families transformed what might have been a simple squash into a warm, comforting dish that could delight children and adults alike, often served with a dusting of sugar or a drizzle of molasses for a touch of sweetness. The magic lay in turning the ordinary into something special with minimal ingredients and a bit of ingenuity. The origins of pumpkin fritters lie in frugality and creativity. Pumpkins were abundant in home gardens and stored well through the colder months, making them a reliable and versatile food source. Simple additions like flour, a splash of milk, or a pinch of baking powder transformed mashed pumpkin into a batter. Some households incorporated spices, cinnamon, nutmeg, or cloves, elevating the fritters with a warmth and depth, while others fried them in a little rendered fat or oil, turning humble batter into golden pockets of flavor. It was a dish that could stretch across a family table yet feel indulgent, reflecting both resourcefulness and care. Preparing pumpkin fritters today is a hands-on nod to culinary tradition. The pumpkin is cooked and mashed, then combined with flour, a touch of sugar, and warming spices to form a thick batter. Spoonfuls are fried until crisp and golden, filling the kitchen with an aroma that's both nostalgic and inviting. Served warm, they can be enjoyed as breakfast, a snack, or a dessert, each bite offering a gentle crunch, followed by tender, spiced pumpkin, The emotional resonance of pumpkin fritters comes from their ability to evoke home, family, and seasonal celebration. They recall crisp autumn mornings, the joy of sharing simple treats, and the creativity required to make the most of what was available. In today's era of prepackaged sweets, these fritters remind us that comfort, flavor, and satisfaction often come from simplicity, care, and a little bit of ingenuity. Each golden bite is a taste of history and the enduring spirit of Depression-era kitchens. Stewed apples with cinnamon. There's a simple, heartwarming joy in the scent of apples gently stewing with cinnamon, filling the kitchen with an aroma that feels like a hug from the past. During the Great Depression, stewed apples with cinnamon were a favorite autumn treat, an affordable dessert that required little more than what families already had on hand. Apples could be harvested from backyard trees, bought cheaply at local markets, or even salvaged from bruised fruit that might otherwise go to waste. With a sprinkle of sugar or a drizzle of molasses and the warm spice of cinnamon, these humble ingredients transformed into a dish that was both comforting and satisfying, offering sweetness when resources were scarce. The origins of stewed apples with cinnamon lie in practicality and creativity. Families needed desserts that were economical yet nourishing, and stewed apples fit the bill perfectly. Some households used a small amount of water or leftover cooking liquid to soften the fruit, while others added butter or cream if available. Cinnamon, often considered a small luxury, elevated the dish with its aromatic warmth without adding much cost. Each family had its own approach, creating variations that reflected both necessity and ingenuity. Preparing stewed apples today is simple and evocative of history. Apples are peeled, cored, and sliced, then gently simmered with a little liquid, sugar, or molasses. Cinnamon is added to infuse the mixture with its fragrant warmth. As the apples soften and release their natural sweetness, the result is a tender, aromatic compote that can be served on its own, over oatmeal, or alongside bread. The emotional resonance of stewed apples with cinnamon comes from its ties to home, family, and seasonal ritual. It evokes crisp autumn mornings, kitchens filled with warmth, and small comforts that made a big difference. In today's world of instant desserts, this dish reminds us that simple ingredients, handled thoughtfully, can create something timeless. Each spoonful carries the ingenuity, care, and enduring spirit of Depression-era kitchens, proving that humble ingredients can create lasting joy. Salt pork and beans. Salt pork and beans might not win any beauty contests on the dinner table, but during the Great Depression, it was the epitome of comfort, sustenance, and ingenuity. This dish was born out of necessity. Families needed meals that could stretch for days, feed many mouths, and rely on ingredients that were affordable and shelf-stable. Salt pork provided the fat and savory depth that fresh meat could not, while beans offered protein, fiber, and bulk. Together, they created a humble yet hearty meal that warmed stomachs and lifted spirits during some of the country's toughest times. The origins of salt pork and beans lie in frugality and resourcefulness. Beans, whether navy, pinto, or kidney, were inexpensive, easy to store, and endlessly adaptable. Salt pork, often bought in small portions or preserved at home, added richness and flavor that turned plain legumes into something satisfying. Onions, a pinch of dried herbs, or a splash of molasses could enhance the taste, while a slow simmer allowed the flavors to meld. This one-pot meal minimized dishes, maximized flavor, and delivered warmth to both body and spirit. Preparing salt pork and beans today preserves the essence of this historic recipe. Beans are soaked and simmered until tender, while cubes of salt pork are slowly rendered to release flavorful fat. As the beans absorb that richness, the dish transforms into a hearty stew. Some modern cooks finish it with a touch of hot sauce or a dash of black pepper, but even in its simplest form, it delivers comfort that transcends its humble ingredients. The emotional resonance of salt pork and beans comes from its ties to resilience and family tradition. It conjures images of kitchens where frugality met ingenuity, of tables where everyone was fed and nourished regardless of scarcity. Eating it today, you're tasting not just beans and pork, but history and the quiet determination of families who made every meal count. Each spoonful is a reminder that patience, care, and simple ingredients can produce something hearty, memorable, and deeply satisfying. Carrot and parsnip mash. There's a subtle elegance in the pairing of carrots and parsnips, two humble root vegetables that, when mashed together, become a dish of warmth, sweetness, and comfort. During the Great Depression, carrot and parsnip mash was a common fixture on family tables, a clever way to turn inexpensive, readily available produce into something nourishing and even celebratory. Both vegetables stored well through colder months, making them reliable staples for households seeking to stretch every penny without sacrificing flavor or sustenance. The origins of this mash are rooted in frugality and ingenuity. Families made the most of what was grown locally or kept in root cellars, and combining these two vegetables created a natural harmony of flavors and textures. A small amount of butter or milk would often be stirred in to enrich the mash, while a pinch of salt and pepper highlighted the natural sweetness of the roots. Some households added a dash of sugar or nutmeg, giving the dish a subtle, festive note that made it a comforting side for both everyday meals and holiday gatherings. The preparation was simple, but the results were tender, flavorful, and deeply satisfying. A reminder that simplicity can feel luxurious when handled with care. Preparing carrot and parsnip mash today is a gentle nod to tradition. The vegetables are peeled, chopped, and boiled until soft, then mashed together until creamy and slightly fluffy. Butter or cream enriches the texture, while seasoning brings out the earthy sweetness of the roots. Served alongside roasted meats or as a vegetarian option, the mash feels rustic yet refined, bridging necessity and comfort. The emotional resonance of carrot and parsnip mash lies in its ability to evoke home, warmth, and care. It conjures images of families gathered around the table, steam rising from bowls as loved ones savor the flavors of harvest and tradition. In a world dominated by flashy, trend-driven sides, this mash reminds us that true comfort comes from simplicity, resourcefulness, and thoughtful preparation. Each spoonful carries not just taste, but the memory of resilience and the quiet beauty of Depression-era kitchens, proving humble ingredients can leave a lasting impression. Cornbread dressing. Cornbread dressing is a dish that carries the essence of home, tradition, and the kind of comfort that lingers long after the meal is finished. During the Great Depression, it was more than a holiday side. It was a practical and beloved way to turn simple ingredients into a flavorful, filling dish. Cornbread was inexpensive, easy to make in large batches, and could be enhanced with whatever pantry staples were available: onions, celery, herbs, and sometimes a bit of leftover meat or drippings. Combined, these ingredients created a moist, savory dressing that could feed a family without stretching the budget. The origins of cornbread dressing lie in resourcefulness and ingenuity. Families needed dishes that were hearty, easy to prepare, and capable of stretching modest provisions into satisfying meals. Crumbled cornbread formed the base, absorbing the flavors of sautéed vegetables, seasonings, and broth, while herbs like sage or thyme lent a fragrant warmth. In some households, small amounts of butter, eggs, or even milk enriched the mixture, creating a dish that felt special without requiring extravagance. Each family's version was unique, a reflection of both necessity and culinary creativity. Preparing cornbread dressing today is a comforting ritual. Cornbread is baked and allowed to cool before being crumbled into a large bowl. Sautéed onions, celery, and herbs are folded in, along with a bit of broth to moisten the mixture. The dressing is baked until the top is golden and slightly crisp, the interior tender and flavorful. The aroma that fills the kitchen evokes memories of family gatherings, kitchens warmed by both ovens and love, and a time when every meal carried meaning. The emotional resonance of cornbread dressing comes from its ability to connect us with both history and hearth. It recalls family tables, shared meals, and the quiet pride of turning humble ingredients into a dish of lasting comfort. Even in today's fast-paced world, a spoonful reminds us that ingenuity, care, and simplicity can create something truly satisfying, nourishing not just the body, but the heart. Hominy and sausage stew. There's something quietly satisfying about a steaming bowl of hominy and sausage stew, a dish that captures both the resourcefulness and warmth of Depression-era kitchens. Hominy, with its subtle, nutty flavor and hearty texture, was a staple that stretched meals and filled bellies without straining budgets, while sausage, often purchased in small portions or made from leftover cuts, added rich, savory depth. Together, they created a stew that was simple, comforting, and capable of feeding a family through long autumn evenings. The origins of this stew lie in practicality and ingenuity. Hominy was inexpensive, shelf-stable, and versatile, absorbing the flavors of whatever seasonings or scraps were available. Sausage provided a punch of protein and indulgence, turning humble ingredients into a satisfying meal. Onions, bay leaves, or a sprinkling of herbs often enhanced the flavor, while slow simmering allowed the hominy to soften and soak up the savory richness of the meat. For many families, this one-pot meal minimized cleanup, maximized nourishment, and delivered warmth to both stomach and spirit. Preparing hominy and sausage stew today is a comforting exercise in simplicity. The sausage is browned first, releasing its flavorful fat to cook onions and spices. Hominy is then added with water or broth, and the mixture simmers gently until the kernels are tender yet chewy, infused with savory goodness. A dash of black pepper or hot sauce can modernize the dish, but the essence remains timeless, simple, filling, and flavorful. The emotional resonance of hominy and sausage stew comes from its embodiment of comfort, resilience, and ingenuity. It conjures images of families gathered around a worn table, steam curling from bowls, hands reaching for warm bread alongside a hearty stew. In today's fast food-driven world, this dish reminds us that patience, resourcefulness, and thoughtful preparation can produce meals that are both nourishing and memorable. Each spoonful carries the flavors of history and the enduring spirit of cooks who made every meal count. Sweet potato hash. There's a rustic charm to sweet potato hash, a dish that takes humble roots and transforms them into something hearty, flavorful, and comforting. During the Great Depression, sweet potatoes were a prized ingredient, inexpensive, filling, and versatile enough to appear in both savory and sweet dishes. Families relied on them not only for nutrition, but also for the natural sweetness they added to everyday meals. Sweet potato hash was a practical one-pan solution, easy to prepare, satisfying, and capable of feeding multiple mouths with minimal ingredients. The origins of sweet potato hash lie in frugality and ingenuity. Sweet potatoes were often diced and combined with onions, a little fat from bacon or leftover drippings, and a pinch of salt and pepper. Some households added a dash of sugar or molasses to enhance the natural sweetness, while others included herbs or a splash of stock to give the dish savory depth. Slow cooking in a skillet allowed the sweet potatoes to caramelize at the edges, while fried cabbage and bacon. Few aromas are as evocative of home-cooked comfort as sizzling bacon mingling with the earthy scent of cabbage. During the Great Depression, fried cabbage and bacon was a staple in many kitchens, a dish born out of necessity yet rich with flavor. Cabbage was inexpensive, widely available, and packed with nutrients, while bacon, used sparingly, added fat and a smoky depth that elevated the humble vegetable into a meal the whole family could enjoy. It was a perfect example of Depression-era ingenuity, making a little go a long way. The origins of this dish lie in practicality and thrift. Families relied on what they had, stretching small portions of meat across multiple meals. Bacon was prized not only for its flavor, but also for the fat it released, which became the base for frying cabbage, infusing it with richness without the need for expensive butter or oil. Onions, if available, were sometimes added for sweetness and aroma. Preparation was straightforward. Shred the cabbage, chop the bacon, and fry slowly until the cabbage softened and the edges caramelized slightly, filling kitchens with a comforting, savory scent. Making fried cabbage and bacon today is just as satisfying, a hands-on connection to the resourcefulness of past cooks. The bacon is cut into small pieces and cooked first, releasing flavorful fat that coats the cabbage as it fries. Gentle stirring ensures the leaves wilt and brown at the edges, creating a dish that is tender yet slightly crisp. A pinch of salt and freshly ground pepper completes the flavor, though the smoky bacon carries most of the magic. The emotional resonance of fried cabbage and bacon is undeniable. It evokes memories of families gathering around the table, sharing warmth and sustenance in lean times, and the quiet pride of turning a few simple ingredients into something memorable. In today's era of convenience foods, this dish reminds us that flavor and comfort can come from simplicity, patience, and care. Each bite carries the taste of resilience, ingenuity, and the enduring appeal of humble, honest cooking. Butternut squash soup. There's something quietly luxurious about a bowl of butternut squash soup. Its velvety texture and subtly sweet flavor, warming both body and spirit. During the Great Depression, butternut squash was a prized ingredient. Hearty, inexpensive, and abundant in home gardens or local markets. Its natural sweetness and creamy texture allowed families to create nourishing, flavorful soups with minimal ingredients, stretching a modest harvest into several meals. A simple splash of milk or a knob of butter transformed the squash into a comforting dish that could feed a family without extravagance. The origins of this soup lie in frugality, ingenuity, and seasonal resourcefulness. Families would peel and cube the squash, simmering it gently with onions, garlic, or even a carrot or two to add depth. Herbs like thyme or parsley lent fragrance and warmth, while a touch of salt or pepper highlighted the squash's natural flavor. Some households added a bit of stock or water to extend the soup, demonstrating the clever ways cooks could stretch ingredients without sacrificing taste. In many homes, this one-pot meal offered both nutrition and comfort on chilly autumn days. A quiet reminder that simple ingredients could feel indulgent when handled thoughtfully. Preparing butternut squash soup today is a similarly satisfying experience. The squash is roasted or simmered until tender, then pureed into a silky golden liquid. Cream, milk, or even a drizzle of olive oil can enrich the texture, while seasonings bring out the earthy sweetness. The aroma that fills the kitchen evokes memories of harvest, home, and family kitchens, warmed by love and resourcefulness. The emotional resonance of butternut squash soup comes from its ties to home tradition and resilience. It evokes images of families gathering around the table, steam rising from bowls, sharing warmth and nourishment in lean times. Today, amidst convenience foods and prepackaged meals, this soup is a reminder that simplicity, patience, and care can create dishes that are hearty, memorable, and deeply comforting. Each spoonful carrying the taste of history and the enduring ingenuity of Depression-era cooks. Beet and onion slaw. There's a crisp, vibrant charm to beet and onion slaw, a dish that brightens any table with its deep red hue and punchy flavors. During the Great Depression, this simple salad was more than just a side. It was an economical way to make vegetables feel special. Beets were inexpensive, hearty, and could be grown in home gardens or stored in root cellars through winter, while onions added sharpness and depth without adding significant cost. Together, they created a refreshing, tangy accompaniment that could elevate even the humblest meal. The origins of beet and onion slaw lie in frugality and clever use of available ingredients. Families would often slice or grate the beets and onions, tossing them with a simple dressing of vinegar, a touch of sugar, and a little salt. Some households added a bit of mustard or oil if available, turning the slaw into a slightly more indulgent dish while keeping it budget-friendly. The preparation was straightforward, yet the result was always satisfying. A balance of sweet, earthy, and tangy flavors that highlighted the natural qualities of the vegetables. Making beet and onion slaw today is just as simple and rewarding. Raw beets can be grated or thinly sliced, combined with onions, and dressed with a mixture of vinegar, a touch of sweetener, and seasoning. The colors pop, the flavors mingle, and the crunch adds texture to meals both casual and festive. The emotional resonance of beet and onion slaw comes from its ties to home, resourcefulness, and the joy of simple, fresh flavors. It evokes images of family tables, where inventive cooks transformed modest ingredients into something memorable. In a modern world dominated by processed sides and convenience foods, this slaw reminds us that vibrant, nourishing dishes can come from humble roots, patience, and a little culinary creativity. Each bite carries both taste and history, a nod to the resilience and ingenuity of Depression-era kitchens. Pumpkin and raisin loaf. There's a cozy autumnal charm to pumpkin and raisin loaf, a sweet spiced bread that fills the kitchen with the aroma of fall. During the Great Depression, this loaf was a clever way to turn simple, inexpensive ingredients into a treat that felt indulgent. Pumpkin, often grown in home gardens or purchased cheaply at local markets, provided moisture, nutrition, and a subtly sweet base, while raisins added bursts of natural sweetness without the need for excessive sugar. Together, they created a bread that was hearty, flavorful, and perfect for stretching modest resources into multiple meals or snacks. The origins of this loaf lie in frugality, ingenuity, and the desire to make something special out of humble ingredients. Families combined pumpkin puree with a handful of flour, a touch of fat or oil, and a few pantry staples like sugar, cinnamon, or nutmeg. Raisins were added to provide sweetness and texture, elevating the loaf from everyday sustenance to a comforting, festive treat. Some households experimented with nuts, molasses, or even leftover mashed vegetables, reflecting the creativity that arose from necessity. Baking it slowly allowed the flavors to meld, creating a tender, aromatic loaf that felt like warmth and care wrapped in each slice. Preparing pumpkin and raisin loaf today is a simple, satisfying ritual. Pumpkin is pureed and mixed with dry ingredients, sweetener, and raisins, then poured into a loaf pan and baked until golden. The aroma of cinnamon and pumpkin fills the home, evoking memories of kitchens past, cozy autumn mornings, and the quiet pride of turning simple ingredients into something delicious. The emotional resonance of this loaf comes from its ability to connect us to both tradition and ingenuity. It recalls family gatherings, the joy of home-baked bread, and the comfort of a treat made with care. Even in a world of instant desserts and artisanal loaves, pumpkin and raisin loaf reminds us that simplicity, resourcefulness, and warmth can create something timeless, nourishing both body and memory. Minced meat pie. There's a humble satisfaction in a minced meat pie, a dish that embodies the practicality and resourcefulness of Depression-era kitchens. During the Great Depression, families needed meals that were affordable, filling, and versatile, and minced meat pie fit the bill perfectly. Ground or chopped meat, often beef, pork, or a mixture, was combined with pantry staples like onions, breadcrumbs, or even leftover vegetables, then encased in a simple pastry. The result was a portable, hearty meal that could feed a family with minimal fuss and maximum flavor. The origins of minced meat pie lie in frugality and ingenuity. With fresh meat often scarce or expensive, cooks learned to stretch small amounts with fillers and seasonings, turning modest portions into satisfying dishes. Onions, herbs, or a splash of stock enhanced the flavor, while the pastry served both as a container and a source of additional sustenance. Every household had its own twist. Some added a touch of sweet spices, others favored a more savory approach, but all shared the goal of making every ingredient count. Preparing minced meat pie today is straightforward yet evocative of a bygone era. Ground meat is browned and seasoned, then mixed with breadcrumbs, onions, and any available vegetables. The mixture is spooned into a simple pastry shell, sometimes with a top crust, and baked until golden and fragrant. The aroma of baking pastry mingling with savory meat fills the home with comfort and nostalgia. The emotional resonance of minced meat pie comes from its ties to family, resourcefulness, and home cooking. It evokes images of kitchens where every meal was crafted with care, where ingenuity turned scarcity into satisfaction. In today's world of frozen dinners and meal kits, this pie reminds us that patience, creativity, and simple ingredients can produce meals that are hearty, memorable, and deeply comforting. Each bite carries both flavor and history, a taste of resilience, and the enduring ingenuity of cooks who made every meal matter. Apple dumplings. There's a simple, comforting magic in apple dumplings, a dish that wraps tender apples in pastry and fills the kitchen with the scent of warmth and sweetness. During the Great Depression, apple dumplings were an economical way to transform humble ingredients into a treat that felt indulgent. Apples were often sourced from backyard trees, local markets, or even salvaged from slightly bruised fruit, while basic pastry could be made from flour, a bit of fat, and water. Together, they created a dessert, or even a breakfast, that was both filling and satisfying, bringing a sense of home and care to the table. The origins of apple dumplings lie in frugality and creativity. Families needed dishes that could stretch limited resources, and dumplings allowed them to make a small number of apples go further. A sprinkle of sugar or a drizzle of molasses added sweetness, while spices like cinnamon or nutmeg provided warmth and depth without significant cost. Each household had its own method. Some baked the dumplings in butter, others in a simple syrup. But the result was always a tender, aromatic treat that delighted children and adults alike. Preparing apple dumplings today is just as charming and simple. Apples are peeled, cored, and filled with a touch of sugar and spice before being wrapped in pastry and baked until golden. The aroma that fills the kitchen is a comforting invitation to gather around the table, evoking memories of cozy autumn mornings or evening treats shared with family. The emotional resonance of apple dumplings comes from their ties to tradition, warmth, and resilience. They remind us that even in times of scarcity, simple ingredients and a bit of care could create something memorable. Every bite carries the sweetness of history, the ingenuity of Depression-era cooks, and the timeless pleasure of a dish that celebrates both flavor and family. Corn pudding. There's a quiet, rustic charm to corn pudding, a dish that feels like autumn on a plate. During the Great Depression, corn pudding was a beloved staple, a way to stretch inexpensive ingredients into a comforting, filling side that could feed an entire family. Corn, whether fresh, canned, or dried, was affordable, readily available, and versatile. Mixed with a few pantry staples like milk, eggs, or a bit of fat, it transformed into a custardy, subtly sweet dish that paired beautifully with meats, stews, or even served on its own as a simple, satisfying treat. The origins of corn pudding lie in practicality and creativity. Families needed recipes that could maximize flavor while minimizing cost, and corn pudding fit the bill. Some households added a touch of sugar or a dash of flour to thicken the custard, while others incorporated leftover bits of cornbread or vegetables to bulk it up. The result was always a tender, golden dish with a slightly sweet, creamy texture that made every bite comforting and memorable. Preparing corn pudding today is straightforward yet evocative of a bygone era. Corn kernels are mixed with eggs, milk, and a touch of fat, sometimes sweetened or lightly seasoned, then baked until set and lightly browned on top. The aroma of sweet corn and baked custard fills the kitchen, a warm reminder of family meals and autumn traditions. The emotional resonance of corn pudding comes from its ties to home, resourcefulness, and comfort. It recalls tables where simple ingredients were transformed into something special, where care and patience produced dishes that nourished both body and spirit. In a modern world of instant sides, convenience foods, corn pudding reminds us that simplicity, creativity, and warmth can create meals that are enduring, satisfying, and deeply connected to tradition. Each spoonful carries the taste of history, ingenuity, and a touch of nostalgic sweetness. Chestnut soup. There's a quiet elegance in chestnut soup, its creamy, nutty flavor warming both the body and the spirit. During the Great Depression, chestnuts were an affordable, shelf-stable ingredient that could elevate simple meals, providing richness and sustenance when fresh dairy or meat were scarce. Families would gather chestnuts from local trees or purchase them inexpensively, then boil, peel, and puree them into a comforting soup. Combined with a bit of broth, milk, or cream when available, the chestnuts transformed into a silky, flavorful dish that felt indulgent, despite its humble origins. The origins of chestnut soup lie in resourcefulness and ingenuity. Cooks had to make the most of seasonal and inexpensive ingredients, and chestnuts provided both nutrition and texture. Onions, garlic, or a sprig of herbs might be added to enhance the natural flavor, while a pinch of salt and pepper brought balance. Some households enrich the soup with a little butter or cream, turning it into a velvety, luxurious dish suitable for family dinners or special occasions. Every pot carried the careful attention of cooks who knew how to stretch simple ingredients into something satisfying. Preparing chestnut soup today is both simple and evocative of history. Cooked chestnuts are blended with broth, milk, or cream until smooth, then gently reheated and seasoned. The aroma of nutty, earthy sweetness fills the kitchen, conjuring images of autumn markets, root cellars, and family gatherings around the table. The emotional resonance of chestnut soup comes from its ties to tradition, comfort, and resilience. It evokes the ingenuity of Depression-era kitchens, where cooks turned modest ingredients into nourishing meals. In today's world of convenience foods and fast meals, chestnut soup reminds us that patience, care, and simple ingredients can create dishes that are both memorable and comforting. Each spoonful carries the warmth of history and the enduring creativity of generations past. Lentil and ham soup. There's a quiet, hearty satisfaction in a bowl of lentil and ham soup, a dish that nourishes both body and soul. During the Great Depression, it was a staple for families seeking affordable, filling meals that could feed many mouths without breaking the budget. Lentils were inexpensive, shelf-stable, and packed with protein and fiber, while ham, or even a small ham bone, added savory depth, turning humble legumes into a comforting, flavorful stew. Together, they created a dish that was both practical and deeply satisfying, warming kitchens and hearts alike. The origins of lentil and ham soup lie in thrift and resourcefulness. Families learned to make small amounts of meat stretch by pairing it with inexpensive pulses, maximizing nutrition and flavor. Onions, garlic, and herbs often accompanied the lentils, infusing the soup with aroma and depth. Some households added a splash of stock or a few leftover vegetables, creating a one-pot meal that minimized effort while providing maximum sustenance. Each pot reflected the ingenuity of cooks who turned modest ingredients into something memorable and satisfying. Preparing lentil and ham soup today is simple yet evocative of a bygone era. Lentils are rinsed and combined with diced ham, aromatics, and seasonings, then simmered gently until the flavors meld into a rich, hearty broth. A few fresh herbs or a pinch of smoked paprika can modernize the dish, but the essence remains the same: comforting, nourishing, and deliciously humble. The emotional resonance of lentil and ham soup comes from its ties to family, tradition, and perseverance. It evokes images of kitchens where care, patience, and creativity transformed simple ingredients into meals that sustained both body and spirit. In a world dominated by convenience foods and fast meals, this soup reminds us that flavor, warmth, and satisfaction often come from thoughtful preparation and humble beginnings. Each spoonful carries both history and heart, a taste of ingenuity that continues to resonate decades later. Fried apples with cracked pepper. There's an unexpected delight in fried apples with cracked pepper, a dish that balances sweet and savory in the simplest, most comforting way. During the Great Depression, families relied on apples as an inexpensive, versatile fruit, often harvested from backyard trees or purchased at local markets. A little fat from butter or lard, a sprinkle of sugar, and a crack of black pepper transformed these humble apples into a warm, aromatic treat that could serve as a side, dessert, or even a topping for breakfast. It was an ingenious way to elevate basic ingredients without stretching the budget. The origins of this dish lie in practicality and creativity. Households needed recipes that could add flavor and variety to limited resources, and fried apples fit the bill perfectly. The natural sweetness of the fruit combined with the subtle heat of cracked pepper created a complex flavor profile that felt indulgent yet economical. Some families added a splash of vinegar, a hint of cinnamon, or a drizzle of molasses to vary the taste, demonstrating the adaptability of Depression-era kitchens. Preparing fried apples with cracked pepper today is simple but still evocative of that ingenuity. Apples are sliced and sautéed in butter or oil until soft and caramelized, then finished with freshly cracked black pepper and a touch of sugar. The kitchen fills with the warm scent of fruit and spice, evoking images of cozy autumn mornings or the quiet satisfaction of a thoughtfully prepared family meal. The emotional resonance of fried apples with cracked pepper comes from their connection to comfort, home, and creativity. They remind us that even the simplest ingredients, when treated with care and imagination, can produce memorable flavors. In today's era of packaged snacks and instant desserts, this dish stands as a testament to resourcefulness and the enduring charm of home-cooked ingenuity. Each bite carries both history and heart, a sweet and savory taste of resilience from kitchens past. Potato pancakes. There's something irresistibly nostalgic about potato pancakes. Those golden, crispy discs that crackle as they hit the pan and fill the kitchen with the scent of fried comfort. During the Great Depression, potato pancakes were a staple in many homes. A clever way to turn inexpensive, readily available potatoes into a filling, flavorful meal. Potatoes provided bulk and sustenance, while a simple binding of flour and egg, sometimes just a sprinkle of salt and pepper, transformed grated spuds into a versatile dish that could be eaten for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. The origins of potato pancakes lie in frugality and ingenuity. Families needed recipes that could stretch limited ingredients, and pancakes were perfect for using leftover or slightly imperfect potatoes. Onions or herbs were sometimes mixed in for flavor, and the frying fat, often rendered from bacon or leftover drippings, added richness without extra cost. Each household had its own method, from thick, tender cakes to thinner, crispier rounds, reflecting both preference and necessity. Preparing potato pancakes today is a hands-on reminder of that creativity. Potatoes are peeled, grated, and mixed with a small amount of flour, egg, and seasoning, then fried in a hot skillet until golden and crisp. The aroma of sizzling potatoes mingles with the savory notes of onions or herbs, transporting you to kitchens where care and resourcefulness turned simple ingredients into something remarkable. The emotional resonance of potato pancakes comes from their ties to home, family, and tradition. They evoke images of hands working together at the counter, the sizzle of pancakes in the pan, and the quiet satisfaction of a meal made with thought and care. In an age of convenience foods and prepackaged meals, potato pancakes remind us that comfort, flavor, and ingenuity often come from the simplest ingredients. Each bite carries the history, creativity, and warmth of generations past. Molasses brown bread. There's a deep, comforting aroma in molasses brown bread. The warm scent of sweet, earthy loaf filling the kitchen and hinting at the simple pleasures of home baking. During the Great Depression, this bread was more than a staple. It was a way to turn inexpensive ingredients into something nourishing and flavorful. Flour, water, a touch of fat, and generous molasses combined to create a dense, slightly sweet loaf that could feed a family through the week. Its richness didn't come from extravagance, but from practicality and care, turning humble pantry items into something special. The origins of molasses brown bread lie in frugality and resourcefulness. Molasses, a byproduct of sugar production, was inexpensive, shelf-stable, and provided a robust sweetness that elevated simple flour. Some households added a bit of baking soda or powder to lighten the texture, while others incorporated oats or cornmeal for added body and fiber. Cooking this bread slowly in a covered pan, often in a water bath, created a moist, tender crumb that made every slice feel comforting and hearty. It was a loaf that could stand on its own or accompany soups, stews, and beans, stretching modest meals into something satisfying. Preparing molasses brown bread today is a tactile, rewarding experience. The ingredients are mixed carefully, poured into a prepared pan, and baked until the crust is deep brown and the interior holds a slightly springy, moist texture. The aroma of molasses and warm bread filling the kitchen evokes memories of hands kneading dough, simple kitchens, and autumn mornings. The emotional resonance of molasses brown bread comes from its ties to tradition, home, and resilience. It's a reminder that even during hard times, ingenuity and care could transform basic ingredients into something deeply nourishing. Each slice carries warmth, history, and the enduring satisfaction of honest, home-cooked food, a taste of ingenuity and comfort that has endured through generations. Chicken and dumplings. There's a timeless comfort in a bowl of chicken and dumplings. The tender chicken swimming in a rich broth, dotted with soft, pillowy dumplings that soak up every drop of flavor. During the Great Depression, this dish was a practical marvel, a way to stretch a little meat into a meal that could feed an entire family while delivering warmth, nourishment, and a sense of abundance. Chicken, often a modest piece or leftover from Sunday dinner, provided protein, while the dumplings, simple flour and water dough, turned the meal into a filling, hearty stew that warmed both kitchen and heart. The origins of chicken and dumplings lie in ingenuity and frugality. Families had to make the most of limited resources, and combining small amounts of meat with dough allowed them to create a satisfying meal without extravagance. Aromatics like onions, celery, or carrots added flavor, while slow simmering drew every ounce of goodness from the chicken into the broth. The dumplings, whether dropped or rolled, absorbed the rich liquid, creating a comforting texture that was both tender and substantial. Each pot reflected a household's creativity and the resourcefulness required to feed many mouths with few ingredients. Preparing chicken and dumplings today is a hands-on homage to that ingenuity. The chicken is simmered gently to release flavor, the broth enriched with vegetables and seasoning, and the dumplings dropped in to cook until soft and fluffy. The aroma alone, warm, savory, and inviting, evokes kitchens of the past where care and patience turned humble ingredients into memorable meals. The emotional resonance of chicken and dumplings is undeniable. It evokes family tables, generations gathered together, and the quiet pride of creating something nourishing from modest means. In a world of convenience foods and instant meals, it reminds us that comfort, flavor, and satisfaction often come from simplicity, thoughtfulness, and a touch of patience. Each spoonful carries not only taste but history, warmth, and the enduring spirit of home-cooked ingenuity. Rutabaga mash. There's a quiet, earthy satisfaction in rutabaga mash, a dish that transforms a humble root vegetable into something warm, hearty, and comforting. During the Great Depression, rutabagas were a pantry staple. Inexpensive, long-lasting, and filling, Families relied on them to stretch meals and provide nutrition when fresh vegetables were scarce or costly. Boiled and mashed with a bit of fat, a touch of milk, and seasoning, rutabaga became a side that could accompany nearly any main dish, proving that simple ingredients could still deliver satisfaction and flavor. The origins of rutabaga mash lie in practicality and resourcefulness. This vegetable, hearty and easy to store through winter, allowed households to make the most of limited resources. Often, a small knob of butter, a splash of cream, or a sprinkle of salt and pepper would elevate the mash, turning the earthy root into something tender and flavorful. Some families added a dash of nutmeg or a drizzle of honey to highlight its natural sweetness, creating a dish that felt both comforting and slightly indulgent despite frugal origins. Preparing rutabaga mash today is straightforward but carries the legacy of ingenuity. Rutabagas are peeled, chopped, and boiled until soft, then mashed to a creamy consistency with butter, milk, and seasonings. The aroma, slightly sweet, earthy, and warming, evokes kitchens past, where families found comfort in modest, thoughtfully prepared meals. The emotional resonance of rutabaga mash comes from its connection to home, care, and perseverance. It conjures images of family dinners in chilly kitchens, hands reaching for warm bowls of sustenance, and the quiet pride of transforming simple roots into nourishing food. In a modern age of convenience and pre-packaged sides, rutabaga mash reminds us that patience, creativity, and simplicity can create dishes that are both hearty and memorable. Each spoonful carries history, warmth, and the enduring charm of Depression-era home cooking. Clam chowder with saltines. There's a comforting nostalgia in a steaming bowl of clam chowder, thick and creamy, dotted with tender chunks of clams and potatoes, and served with a handful of crisp saltines on the side. During the Great Depression, clam chowder was both practical and indulgent, a way to enjoy the briny flavors of the sea while stretching a small amount of seafood into a hearty, satisfying meal. Potatoes and onions added bulk and sweetness. Cream or milk enriched the broth, and a sprinkling of saltines offered crunch and substance. It was a dish that spoke to ingenuity, turning simple, affordable ingredients into a luxurious tasting experience. The origins of clam chowder with saltines lie in resourcefulness and regional tradition. Families along the coast had access to clams, whether fresh, canned, or even salted, and combined them with pantry staples to feed the whole household. Slow simmering drew the flavors together, while small additions like a dash of thyme, pepper, or a bit of bacon fat elevated the soup without breaking the budget. Each pot reflected a cook's ingenuity and the need to make modest ingredients feel substantial, nourishing, and satisfying. Preparing clam chowder with saltines today is both comforting and easy. Onions and potatoes are sautéed, clams and liquid added. Then the mixture thickened with a little flour or cream until velvety. Served with saltines for dipping or crumbling on top, the chowder fills the kitchen with a warm, savory aroma reminiscent of cozy coastal homes in autumn evenings. The emotional resonance of this dish comes from its ties to home, family, and practicality. It evokes memories of generations gathered around the table, enjoying a simple yet luxurious meal that nourished both body and spirit. In a modern world of fast food and prepackaged meals, clam chowder with saltines reminds us that patience, care, and thoughtful use of humble ingredients can create dishes that are timeless, satisfying, and deeply comforting. Each spoonful carries history, ingenuity, and the enduring magic of home-cooked warmth. Pork and sauerkraut casserole. There's a hearty satisfaction in a slice of pork and sauerkraut casserole the tang of fermented cabbage melding beautifully with the rich, savory flavors of slow-cooked pork. During the Great Depression, this dish was a practical masterpiece, inexpensive, shelf-stable, and capable of feeding a family with minimal fuss. Sauerkraut, which could be stored for months without refrigeration, added bulk, flavor, and a touch of acidity that brightened the richness of the pork. Together, they created a dish that was nourishing, comforting, and deeply satisfying, proving that flavor didn't require extravagance. The origins of pork and sauerkraut casserole lie in thrift and ingenuity. Families stretched small cuts of pork by pairing them with sauerkraut, often layering the two in a simple casserole dish and baking them slowly to let the flavors meld. Onions, a splash of water or broth, and a pinch of spices could elevate the dish, while the slow cooking ensured tenderness and depth. Each household had its variation, reflecting both the available ingredients and the cook's creativity, demonstrating how necessity often gave rise to enduring comfort foods. Preparing this casserole today is a simple, hands-on way to connect with that history. Pork is browned or roasted, layered with sauerkraut and onions in a baking dish, and cooked until tender and aromatic. The mingling of tangy cabbage and savory pork fills the kitchen with warmth, evoking the care and patience of Depression-era kitchens where every ingredient mattered. The emotional resonance of pork and sauerkraut casserole comes from its ties to family, home, and practicality. It conjures images of families gathering around the table, the aroma promising nourishment and comfort. In a modern era dominated by convenience foods, this casserole reminds us that flavor, satisfaction, and tradition often come from simple ingredients prepared thoughtfully. Each bite carries not only taste, but history, ingenuity, and the enduring spirit of home-cooked resilience. Acorn squash with honey. There's a quiet sweetness in roasted acorn squash drizzled with honey, its tender golden flesh releasing a warm aroma that instantly evokes autumn kitchens and cozy family gatherings. During the Great Depression, this simple dish was a testament to ingenuity and frugality. Acorn squash was inexpensive, easy to store through the colder months, and naturally sweet, making it a perfect way to stretch limited resources into something nourishing and comforting. A touch of honey, or sometimes a sprinkle of brown sugar or molasses, elevated the squash without requiring costly ingredients, turning humble produce into a seasonal delight. The origins of acorn squash with honey lie in practicality and creativity. Families relied on winter squash as a dependable, long-lasting vegetable that could be transformed into both savory and sweet dishes. Roasting enhanced its natural sugars, while a drizzle of honey brought depth and richness to the flavor. Some households added a pinch of cinnamon or a dash of butter to enrich the dish further, demonstrating how small touches could make modest ingredients feel indulgent. It was a dish that could accompany a meal or serve as a simple dessert, offering both sustenance and satisfaction. Preparing acorn squash with honey today is effortless but rewarding. The squash is halved, seeded, and roasted until soft and caramelized, then drizzled with honey before serving. The aroma, warm, sweet, and earthy, fills the kitchen, conjuring images of Depression-era families making the most of what they had and the comforting ritual of sharing simple, thoughtfully prepared food. The emotional resonance of this dish lies in its connection to home, harvest, and ingenuity. It evokes family tables in autumn, the satisfaction of turning modest ingredients into something delightful, and the quiet pride of resourceful cooking. In a modern world of convenience and instant flavors, acorn squash with honey reminds us that warmth, sweetness, and comfort can come from simplicity and care. Each tender bite carries history, resilience, and the timeless magic of humble home-cooked food. Creamed corn bake. There's a cozy charm in a warm dish of creamed corn bake, the sweet kernels nestled in a velvety, buttery custard that smells like home the moment it comes out of the oven. During the Great Depression, this humble casserole was a marvel of practicality, affordable, filling, and capable of stretching simple ingredients into a meal or side that could nourish an entire family. Corn, whether fresh, canned, or frozen, provided bulk and natural sweetness, while a splash of milk, a pat of butter, and a touch of flour or eggs transformed it into a creamy, comforting dish that felt indulgent despite its simplicity. The origins of creamed corn bake lie in thrift and ingenuity. Families needed meals that were easy to prepare, could feed multiple mouths, and made the most of pantry staples. Some households added a sprinkle of sugar or a pinch of salt, while others incorporated onions, herbs, or even bits of leftover cooked meat for added flavor. Baked slowly in a modest oven, the mixture set into a tender, golden-topped casserole, its edges lightly caramelized, a reminder that even the simplest dishes could delight and satisfy. Preparing creamed corn bake today is both simple and nostalgic. Corn is combined with milk, eggs, and a little fat, seasoned and baked until the custard sets and the top turns golden. The aroma, sweet, buttery, and inviting, fills the kitchen, evoking images of Depression-era families gathering around the table to enjoy a dish made with care and ingenuity. The emotional resonance of creamed corn bake comes from its connection to warmth, family, and resourcefulness. It recalls kitchens, where simple ingredients became comforting meals, and where the act of cooking was as much about care and ingenuity as flavor. In a modern era dominated by convenience foods, this casserole reminds us that thoughtful preparation, patience, and modest ingredients can create dishes that are hearty, satisfying, and timeless. Each bite carries both history and the comforting spirit of home-cooked tradition. Gingerbread with apples. There's a nostalgic warmth in a slice of gingerbread studded with tender, sweet apples, the aroma of molasses, cinnamon, and nutmeg filling the kitchen like an autumn hug. During the Great Depression, this humble dessert was more than just a treat. It was a way to bring sweetness and comfort to the table without stretching limited resources. Apples, often sourced from backyard trees or local markets, added natural moisture and sweetness, while pantry staples like flour, sugar, and a touch of molasses created a tender, flavorful batter. The result was a dessert that felt indulgent yet remained simple, affordable, and nourishing. The origins of gingerbread with apples lie in ingenuity and practicality. Families needed desserts that could satisfy cravings and feed multiple mouths with minimal cost. Spices like cinnamon and ginger were used sparingly, enhancing the flavor without requiring extravagance. Some households added a drizzle of syrup, a sprinkling of sugar, or a splash of cream to serve with the warm slices, while others enjoyed it plain, appreciating the tender crumb and sweet tart bite of the apples. Each version reflected both the resources at hand and the cook's creativity, a hallmark of Depression-era kitchens. Preparing gingerbread with apples today is straightforward and deeply satisfying. Apples are peeled, cored, and chopped, then folded into a spiced gingerbread batter and baked until golden and fragrant. The kitchen fills with the rich scent of molasses and spices, mingling with the natural aroma of the apples. Served warm with a pat of butter, a drizzle of cream, or a simple dusting of sugar, it's a dessert that evokes both comfort and nostalgia. The emotional resonance of this dish comes from its connection to home, family, and resilience. It conjures images of kitchens where modest ingredients were transformed into comforting desserts, and of children savoring a sweet treat despite lean times. In today's era of pre-packaged sweets and flashy desserts, gingerbread with apples reminds us that warmth, flavor, and joy can come from simplicity, care, and a touch of creativity. Each bite carries history, ingenuity, and the enduring magic of home-cooked comfort. And there you have it, 30 old-fashioned soups that Grandma lovingly made every autumn. Each one a reminder of warmth, family, and the simple joys of home cooking. From hearty stews to creamy bowls brimming with vegetables, these recipes carry the flavors of tradition and the spirit of ingenuity. If any of these soups brought back memories or inspired you to try one yourself, drop a comment and share your thoughts. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more nostalgic recipes, and share it with friends and family who appreciate the timeless comfort of a homemade bowl of soup.